So Impact Wrestling now has two World Championships because this past week on Impact Wrestling, it was revealed that the TNA World Heavyweight Championship has been officially reinstated to count as a World Championship. So you now have the Impact World Championship and the TNA World Heavyweight Championship currently active and established as World Championships in Impact Wrestling. Now Moose, of course, has been carrying the TNA World Heavyweight Championship as an unrecognized title for almost a year at this point, and now officially it has paid off. Now Moose this past week on Impact Wrestling on Access TV, he threatened to hold up Impact Wrestling if he didn't get an Impact World Championship opportunity. Now Scott D'Amore did him one better and officially reinstated the TNA World Heavyweight Championship. So, of course, the current Impact World Champion, Rich Swann, the current Impact Wrestling Championship, carries the lineage of the TNA World Heavyweight Championship. So, I'm not currently too sure as to how this works out. Impact/TNA used the NWA World Heavyweight Championship for the first 5 years of their existence, which of course is now currently held by Nick Aldis and is no longer associated with the company. Moose would defeat Jake Something later on in the broadcast, though, to retain the TNA World Heavyweight Championship in his first official championship defense. Now we know, of course, that at Sacrifice it is going to be Impact World Champion Rich Swann versus Moose. So far it's only currently for the Impact World Championship as far as I'm aware, but that doesn't mean that the TNA World Heavyweight Championship isn't going to be added in the future, because Moose, as I mentioned, is finally going to get his opportunity to become the Impact Wrestling World Heavyweight Champion. After months of waiting, Moose will finally get his opportunity to officially become the Impact World Champion when he faces Rich Swann at Sacrifice on March 13. The February 23 episode of Impact Wrestling centered around Moose, who of course has been chasing Rich Swann and the Impact World Championship for months at this point. We've been teased, heavily teased about this Moose versus Rich Swann match going back to Bound for Glory, just after Bound for Glory in October. So we finally got pen to paper, and we still finally have now an actual Impact World Championship match between Rich Swann and Moose. As I mentioned, he's been chasing him for months. Ironically, his answer finally came to him on the night where the TNA Wrestling World Heavyweight Championship, as I mentioned, was officially reinstated and recognized as a World Championship, defeating Jake Something, who, by the way, let's talk about Jake Something in a second, because I mean, he has more than something about him. That guy is a future world champion. He is a bona fide star. Getting him away from Cody Deaner, no disrespect to Cody Deaner, but getting him away, establishing him as a single star is going to be huge for Impact Wrestling. I mean, the amount of potential he has is incredible. But Moose defeated Jake Something in the main event of the show to retain the TNA World Heavyweight Championship. Moose looked to continue his attack on Jake after the match when Rich Swann came running out to make the save, and both men had to be separated by security. Scott D'Amore, Impact Wrestling Executive Vice President, decided that he had finally had enough of all of this back and forth and this fighting and this posturing for World Championship opportunities and World Championship reinstatements, and he decided to book the match as the main event of the next Impact Plus special, which of course is Sacrifice. So Moose is finally going to get that Impact World Championship opportunity that he's been craving for a long time, and frankly, to be honest, it's the Impact Wrestling World Championship opportunity that he's owed. He's owed an Impact World Championship shot. Go back to Genesis. The main event of Genesis was Moose versus Willie Mack, Rich Swann's best friend. The ending of that match saw Moose just pummeling and destroying Willie Mack, so much so that his best friend, Impact World Champion Rich Swann, comes out and says, look, enough's enough. Stop. Please stop. I'll do anything to make you stop. In fact, if you say I quit, because it's an I quit match, if you say I quit, I'll give you a future Impact World Championship opportunity. Well, Moose said that's all I've wanted, and he just said I quit, and that was it. Well, since then, Moose hasn't got his Impact World Championship opportunity, so he's owed one. He's owed one. So I was slightly confusing as to the fact that it took for Scott D'Amore to actually come out and book the match. I mean, I don't know if it was for Moose to cash in whenever he wanted. I don't know if it's Money in the Bank. We've kind of got Money in the Bank on the brain at the moment with everything that's going on with The Miz and the WWE Championship in WWE, but that felt a little bit strange to me, that Moose had to basically, I mean, heavily posture for it, request that Scott D'Amore give him that World Championship opportunity, all that kind of stuff. So that is certainly interesting. I know some people have mentioned, because we did a video talking about this the other day, it was announced, Dave Meltzer spoke about it in the Wrestling Observer newsletter, that it was going to be Rich Swann versus Moose for both the Impact World Championship and the TNA World Heavyweight Championship at Sacrifice. Now, I know people have been saying to me, look, see, you were wrong. Dave Meltzer is wrong. It's only for the Impact World Championship. What I will say in response to that is that we've still got a while to go to Sacrifice. We've still got a couple of weeks, and reinstating the TNA World Heavyweight Championship was incredibly deliberate this week, it felt like. So I wouldn't be surprised in the slightest if either next week or the week after, we get some form of confirmation that this is actually going to be championship versus championship. It's going to be Rich Swann versus Moose, title versus title for the Impact World Championship and the TNA World Heavyweight Championship. I think that's why they've reinstated the TNA World Heavyweight title as an official World Championship, because why else would they do it? It doesn't make any sense to have two world champions in the company unless they're going to do some form of a brand split, which I really don't think Impact Wrestling is going to do. I actually pitched that. Ironically enough, I pitched that, and you can see it actually. I think it might even be on the channel at some point. I definitely pitched it on social media where I said, look, Impact Wrestling has 2 hours on Access TV every week. If they want more, I mean, technically they've got more than that, but if they want more, they can, because the company that owns Impact Wrestling, Anthem, also owns Access TV. So if they really want to, they can have as many hours as they want on Access TV. Nevertheless, what I pitched before, I said, okay, if you've only got 2 hours, on Access TV every single week, why not split that in half? Why not split that in half and say Impact Wrestling on Tuesday nights is a 1 hour show on Access TV. Then on Thursday nights, which back in the day, TNA Impact, that was the air date or air day for TNA Impact on Spike TV. Thursday nights, it was Thursday Night Wrestling. Why not give that second hour of Impact Wrestling from Tuesday, move it to Thursday, and make that TNA Wrestling. So you've got Impact Wrestling on a Tuesday, TNA Wrestling on a Thursday, both 1 hour shows. In the TNA Wrestling, you've got the six-sided ring, you've got all of the accoutrement, if you will, of the stuff that made TNA Wrestling so great back in the mid-2000s and late 2000s. Do all that, and then you can carry on with the current Impact Wrestling lineage and, square ring, squared circle, all that kind of stuff on Tuesday nights. Now, a lot of people said, I don't know if I really want to see that, it's overly complicated, and I agree with you, and I think it's very unlikely, but that would also explain possibly why they've established a second world championship. If they're going to do a brand split, we've seen WWE, not that you really need two world champions to do a brand split, but if you want to keep them separate entities, then maybe that's a way to do it. I think that's very, very unlikely. I think the most likely scenario as to what we're getting towards is that, as I mentioned, at Sacrifice, it's going to be Rich Swann versus Moose, Impact World Championship versus TNA World Heavyweight Championship. In fact, it's already been taped. The winner is out there. Again, we're not going to spoil it here because we're not in the business of doing spoilers on this channel. We're in the business of talking about news, sharing opinion, giving you an opportunity to voice your opinion, a platform for you to talk about WWE, AEW, Impact Wrestling, New Japan Pro Wrestling, all things pro wrestling. So we're not going to get into spoilers as to the results of the match. But the match has been taped, and if that's what you want to do, you can go out there and find it. It's not that difficult to find. But the basis of this match at Sacrifice is that it's going to be title versus title. I still think that's going to happen. Whoever wins gets both titles, and then they move on to face Kenny Omega at Impact Rebellion in April. And that's pretty much confirmed at this point. Obviously, it's not been announced publicly or anything like that, but Kenny Omega, we've known ever since Hard to Kill in January, once we saw that promo for Impact Rebellion in April. Once we saw the Omega logo on that Impact Rebellion logo, we knew Kenny Omega, the AEW World Champion, is returning to Impact Wrestling in April. He is having multiple matches. This is something that's been talked about since December of last year. Since we had those initial reports going, oh no, we're not going to have Kenny Omega in Impact Wrestling. He's just going to appear on that one episode. There's not going to be any Kenny Omega matches. There's not going to be any Kenny Omega involvement. It's just a favour to Don Callis, all that kind of stuff. Since then, there have been multiple reports that say, look, not only is Kenny Omega doing regular appearances for Impact Wrestling, he's going to have more than one match. His first match was at Hard to Kill. The money match has always been, and I've said this from the start, the money match has always been the AEW World Champion versus the Impact Wrestling World Champion. Whoever that may be. Now, we know Kenny Omega is probably going to be the AEW World Champion, but the Impact Wrestling World Champion obviously is a bit more open. It's a bit more flexible. But that's always been the money match. That's always been the money match. Champion versus champion, two separate promotions, two rival promotions, two competing promotions. That's always been the money match. It's always been the money match. And that's not changed. And I think Impact Wrestling and AEW know that. So that's the plan. That's the plan for Impact Rebellion, to have Kenny Omega versus the winner of the match at Sacrifice. Again, not going to say who it is, but that's a massive match. That is a massive, massive match. Now, we don't know if it's going to be title versus title at Impact Rebellion. Right now, if I had to guess, if I had to predict, and that's all it is, it's just guessing and predicting here, I would say it probably is going to be. I mean, Doesn't it have to be, right? I mean, I know the stakes alone of having Impact World Champion versus AEW World Champion would be in itself a massive, massive event and a massive, massive match, and a match certainly you really never thought could happen. But I think given that Kenny Omega, since the start of all of this, has called himself a collector of bouts, a collector of titles, a collector of comic books back in the day, the fact that he is the AEW World Champion, AAA Mega Champion, and the fact that potentially, at Impact Rebellion, he could also become the Impact World Champion and the TNA World Heavyweight Champion. Are you kidding me? 4 championships, 4 major championships. It would be incredible. I mean, what a moment. What a moment that would be. It would certainly get social media talking. I think Impact Wrestling will absolutely rip your arm off to have Kenny Omega as their world champion, because they know the publicity. They know the publicity and the matches and the talk, the buzz on social media that would come with that. Of course they want Kenny Omega to be their world champion. Of course they do. So I think that's a very big possibility. And it was one of my predictions for 2021, is that I felt that Kenny Omega not only would compete for the Impact World Championship this year, my opinion and my prediction was that Kenny Omega would win the Impact World Championship this year. And just think of the image. Think of the image of someone holding the AEW World Championship, the Impact World Championship, the TNA World Heavyweight Championship, and the AAA Mega Championship. I mean, that's massive. I mean, it's huge. It's absolutely huge. So this is all lining up to something much, much bigger. And it's something that I've been saying a while when I've been talking about this Impact Wrestling, AEW, and now New Japan relationship, is that this is building to something big. And I know it's very cliche, and I know it's talking in riddles and cliches sometimes to say, look, it's the tip of the iceberg, expect to see something bigger stuff is happening, we're going to see more in the coming weeks, but we really are. And it goes to show that those initial reports about people saying, look, they don't really know what this AEW and Impact Wrestling relationship is, they were right. They're figuring it out as time goes on, and you can tell that the people involved from the AEW side of things are enjoying it. I think they're more enjoying of getting the talent across to AEW when it comes to the Good Brothers, having the New Japan connection, etc. And Impact Wrestling, they're loving the buzz. Impact Wrestling, whilst their numbers aren't ginormous, and I know people are going to criticise their numbers for not being ginormous, there are only 200,000 live viewers on Access TV a week. Well, getting Access TV is quite difficult, and I know this was once a company that did 1.52 million live viewers on Spike TV, but that was Spike TV. And Impact Wrestling throughout the years, I mean, talk about being beaten down and being dead and buried. They've got more lives than the cat, because I think they've nearly gone out of business way more than 9 times or anything like that. So the fact that they do have this buzz right now, it's great. It's great for them, and I think that's fantastic. So a lot of big stuff happening soon, and we'll have to find out in the coming weeks if it is made title versus title. I expect it to be, but we'll have to wait and see. But of course, as always, this is just one man's opinion. What are your thoughts on the TNA World Heavyweight Championship being reinstated as an official World Championship in Impact Wrestling this week? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I'll do my best to respond and reply to all of your comments. Really enjoy interacting with you guys, talking about Impact Wrestling, AEW, WWE, New Japan Pro Wrestling, all things pro wrestling here on the channel. So be sure to get involved in the community. Drop a comment below. All opinions are welcome. If you have enjoyed this video, please do smash a like on the like button too. Really just help us out here on YouTube, go up the rankings, and get to people's recommendation feeds if they haven't seen our videos previously. But most importantly, if you haven't already, please do subscribe to Wrestle News 365. You can do that by clicking the bottom right hand corner of the screen right now, or if you wait a few seconds, there'll be a subscribe button at the end of this video along with another video for you to watch. Thank you very much for watching, listening, streaming, or have you come across this video today, and I'll speak to you again very, very soon.
Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.